Let us close the eyes for a moment. With deep love, remembering God and the Masters, we will begin with a prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May God protect us all. May we enjoy food together. May we meditate and pray together. May we attain wisdom through our study and discussion. May there be no conflict among us. May there be peace within and everywhere. Om. Amen. Good evening to all of you and welcome. We have been discussing components of Kriya Yoga in this lecture series, and our previous class we stopped at the sutra in second chapter, second sutra, where Sage Patanjali has mentioned the purpose of Kriya Yoga. First he explained the three components or the definition of Kriya Yoga, and then he explained the purpose of Kriya Yoga. Sahi Kriya Yoga Samadhi Bhavanartha Klesha Tanu Karanartha Cha. Kriya Yoga is practiced for two purposes. One is to remove the obstacles from our life, from our path, and to attain Samadhi. So that is the highest goal we have in Kriya Yoga. Now this same concept is mentioned in the Mahabharata. If you read the Mahabharata Vana Parva, there is subsection Aranya Parva and the chapter 2nd, verse number 22nd and 23rd, where King Janaka is explaining about Kriya Yoga. So there is a dialogue between sage Vaishampayan, and he is mentioning about King Janaka, who is a householder yogi, and he is speaking about Kriya Yoga. So what King Janak is telling about, as we discussed from Sage Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, that two purposes, removal of obstacles and attainment of Samadhi. So in Mahabharata, King Janaka is telling Vyadher Anishta Sansparshat Shramadishta Vivarjanat Dukkham Chaturbhi Shariram Karanaihi Sampravartate Tada Tat Pratikarat Cha Satatam Cha Vichintanat Adhi Vyadhi Prashamanam Kriya Yoga Dvayena Tu. It is very important verse where same concept is mentioned by King Janaka. He says that Vyadhi Anishta Sansparshat Shrama Adi, Shrama or Ishta Vivarjana. The four things he is mentioning. Vyadhi, Vyadhi means disease, physical sickness. Anishta Sansparshat, contact with painful things, or you can say unpleasant happenings. Shrama, Shrama means labor or exertion. Ishta Vivarjanat. Ishta Vivarjanat is there are two meanings. Want of objects desired or separation from our near and dear people. That is also Ishta Vivarjana, means whatever we like, we are separated from that and we get pain. So these are the four causes that induce bodily suffering. Whether it is the sadness in the mind, but body suffers also. So disease, contact with painful things, exertion, and want of objects desired. These are the four causes that induce bodily suffering. Now, as regards disease, it may be reduced by the application of medicine, while mental ailments are cured by seeking to forget them through Kriya Yoga meditation. So, first one, Vyadhi Anishta. Now we have to think about it. In the same verse, later sage Vaishampayan is also explaining Tada tat pratikarat cha satatam cha vichintanat adhi vyadhi prashamanam. So he is mentioning two words, adhi and vyadhi. Adhi is mental disease, vyadhi is physical disease. So what he is telling, Kriya Yoga dvayena tu, means physical diseases and mental diseases both are eliminated by practice of Kriya Yoga. And through meditation and concentration, one should not allow these four obstacles in the mind. Because we have identified ourselves with body and mind, that is why if mind is happy, then body will also be healthy. And vice versa. If body is healthy, your mind will be happy. Further, sage is telling, like a red hot iron ball is dropped in cold water pot and the water becomes hot, so also mental disturbance make the body sick. Now here is a question. Sage Patanjali has explained Kriya Yoga as Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwar, Pranidhana, three components. Then why he is explaining Kriya Yoga in the form of Ashtanga Yoga, 8 limbs of yoga, in further verses? It is in second book, 29th verse. Because if Kriya Yoga is only Tapa, Swadhyaya and Ishwar Pranidhana, then why there is need of 8 limbs or 8-fold system which he is telling Ashtanga Yoga? So why he is telling about that? So this is a very deep philosophical question to ponder upon. Let me take you to this 8-fold system first, and then I'll explain why it is needed. What is this 8-fold system? In the second book, 29th Sutra, Sage Patanjali has explained Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhayo, Ashtavangani. So how many limbs are there? 8. He is telling Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Yama is self-discipline. Niyama means vows of observances. Asana means physical postures. Pranayama, regulation of breath. Pratyahara, self-withdrawal, means withdrawal of senses from the objects of enjoyment. Then dharana is concentration. Dhyana is meditation. And samadhi is realization. So these are the 8 constituent limbs of yoga. Is Ashtanga Yoga Kriya Yoga? Answer is yes, because these 8 are the limbs. Now, these 8 are the limbs of yoga, and sometimes people get confused that these are 8 steps. The sage Patanjali has used the word Yoga Anga. Yoga Anga. Yoga Anga has been explained by some as the steps of yoga. Just like a person climbs up on the path of yoga from one step to another step. But these eightfold system is not in the form of steps, because it is clearly mentioned yoga anga, not yoga sopana. Sri Gurudev Baba Hariharananji very specifically he explained that limbs are not steps. Steps in Sanskrit is called sopanam. If these are steps, then sage Patanjali must have used word ashta angani instead of that ashta sopanam. So very specifically sage is explaining that these are the 8 limbs, just like the body has many limbs, and when we are moving, so all the limbs are moving together. It is not that our hand is moving first and after that we move our eyes or our feet, so they all move together. So also this eightfold system ashtanga yoga, it has to be, all these have to be practiced together. So as you touch any limb, you touch the body. Likewise, practice of any limb of yoga is practice of yoga itself. Now further, if we think about this eightfold system, then you'll find that these 8, how they are defined. It is said yama and niyam, these two if we take together, they are known as adhikara yoga. Adhikara yoga, what does it mean? Any sincere spiritual seeker who is taking admission to school, means anybody who is trying to learn yoga, so first he has to prepare, he has to become adhikari, a qualified student. So yama and niyama, these two make you qualified, so you have to practice these two. So it is called adhikara yoga. And when we take tapaha, swadhyay, ishwar pranidhana, these 3 together is kriya yoga, as we discussed in our previous class. Sutra number 1, second book. Now there are 2 out of these 8. If we divide in 4 and 4, so yama, niyama, asana and pranayama, first 4 limbs, they are known as bahiranga yoga. Bahiranga means external, because these 4 are related to yourself and others. So this is external practice, yama, niyama, asana and pranayama. Then if we take the last 4, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana and samadhi, these 4 are antaranga yoga, means internal practice. Then further, sage has explained another word, sanyama. Sanyama he has taken 3 only, dharana, dhyan and samadhi together is sanyama. However, we will focus on bahiranga and antaranga. So external limbs of yoga and internal limbs of yoga. So 4 and 4. Now Ashtanga yoga, these 8 limbs, some people divide as 4 plus 4 and some take it 5 plus 3. Means 5 external, 3 internal, like that. We will take 4 plus 4. So first 4 limbs are related to Shariram Yogam, physical aspect. If you see Yama and Niyama, asana and pranayam, they are related to, more related to the body. And first and the rest 4, pratyahara, dharana, dhyan and samadhi, they are related to atma yoga, means mental aspect. So kriya yoga, together these 8 limbs take care of your physical aspect and mental aspect. The second thing, if we take it as 5 plus 3, so first 5 limbs are known as external yoga and the last 3 are known as antaranga or internal or inner discipline. So this is how they divide it, Ashtanga yoga. But all these are limbs of yoga, which is nothing but kriya yoga. If again, if we think about it, Sage Patanjali in Samadhi Pada, which is the first book, he has given threefold teachings. What are these threefold teachings? First, he spoke about Abhyasa and Vairagya, which is in Sutra number 12, book first. First book, Sutra 12, Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tat Nirodha. When he said how to regulate the mind or how to stop this flow of thought by two things, Abhyasa and Vairagya. Abhyasa means practice with sincerity, regular practice with sincerity. Vairagya means non-attachment to fruits of action. In other words, Abhyasa means to be established in what we are, and Vairagya means to be detached from what we are not. We'll ask, what does it mean? We are not body, we are soul. So we are not body, we have to practice it, and we have to be detached from body. And what to practice? We are the soul. So that is Abhyasa and Vairagya. What is real, we have to practice that. What is unreal, we have to be detached. And so Abhyasa and Vairagya. And then in the first book itself, Sutra number 34, Sage Patanjali also has explained about the technique of pranayama. So Abhyasa, Vairagya and pranayama, this is threefold teaching. Then in the second chapter, which is Sadhana Pada, second chapter, Sutra number 1, we discussed. Here Sage Patanjali has again described threefold teaching. What is threefold teaching here? About Kriya Yoga, he has highlighted Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhana. So first, in the first book he said Abhyasa, Vairagya and Pranayam, the threefold. In the second book he said Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhana, means austerity, self-study and surrender to God. This threefold. Sage Patanjali has emphasized Ishwar Pranidhana, which is surrender to God, even more than the word yoga itself in the entire Yoga Sutra. And one can find a beautiful sequence. I'll tell you where Sage Patanjali has mentioned about this word Kriya Yoga. He has mentioned at 4 places. In the first book, 23rd Sutra, Ishwar Pranidhanat Va. When he is talking about Samadhi, he said how one can attain Samadhi? By Ishwar Pranidhana, means Samadhi can be attained through surrender to God. Then in the second book, first Sutra, he explained Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga. Tapaha, Swadhyaya, surrender to God is Kriya Yoga. Then in the second book again he has told in Sutra number 32, Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhanani Niyamaha. When he is explaining about the Niyama, so again this word Ishwar Pranidhana, surrender to God. Purity, contentment, discipline, self-study and surrender to God are Niyamas. Then further in the second book, 45th Sutra, Sage Patanjali is telling Samadhi Siddhi Ishwar Pranidhanat. Through surrender to God, one can attain perfection in Samadhi. So through surrender to God, one can attain Samadhi, and perfection means to be established, to remain all the time in Samadhi. That also is because of surrender to God. So 4 places Sage Patanjali has mentioned this word Ishwara Pranidhana, unconditional love for God or complete surrender to God. And this is very, very important word or component of Kriya Yoga. Tapa or Swadhyaya, both are practice, and they are like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. But until and unless we go into that realm of Ishwar Pranidhana, complete surrender to God, then nothing will come to perfection. So Ishwar Pranidhana is the most important element of Kriya Yoga. Now we'll discuss a little bit more this word later. Now from this sequence which is mentioned about Ishwar Pranidhana, one thing is extremely clear, that one should intensify deep love and surrender to God for attainment of realization. If we do not meditate with love for God, it will become dry and mechanical practice. It will give definitely some physical benefit, mental and intellectual benefit, but spiritual benefit is not so much unless we also surrender to God when we meditate. Now, there's a doubt. In Sutra number 32 of second book, Ishwar Pranidhana is said to be under niyamas when it is said that this one, Shaucha Santosha Tapaha Swadhyay, Ishwar Pranidhana Niyama. So Shauch, Santosh are clear, purity, contentment. But again, Tapaha Swadhyay, Ishwar Pranidhanani are Niyama. Before, Sesh Patanjali has said, Tapa Swadhyaya Ishwar Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga. Now he is telling Niyama. So the doubt comes to mind that Ishwar Pranidhana is said to be under Niyamas. So does it mean that it is Niyama? Ishwar Pranidhana is Niyama or not Niyama? Because it is mentioned there also. So the answer is that Niyama means vows related to dealing with ourselves. And Yama means the vows or principles related to dealing with others in the society. So Niyamas are related to yourself. So Niyama, Yama and Niyama, they are Bahiranga Sadhana. Means they are external factor of Kriya Yoga. And therefore Ishwar Pranidhana is practiced as external form of sadhana. So Ishwar Pranidhana, in the beginning we practice as part of niyama, which is external sadhana. Means first externally we try to surrender. Then it happens that internally surrender comes from within. That is why it is also mentioned as a niyama. But in fact, Ishwar Pranidhana is not niyama. The reason it is mentioned there, because first it is practiced as Bahiranga Sadhana and then it becomes Antaranga Sadhana. Means first we externally relate to God and surrender, and then internal or inner surrender comes from within. For example, whatever we do, first we offer it to God. This is external surrender. So because we still have ego, we are still performing action. So whatever we do, suppose I am drinking some water, I am taking food, I am working. So whatever I am doing, I am offering it to God. Oh God, this is all I am offering to you. This is external form of surrender. This is Ishwara Pranidhana, but it is external. That is why it is coming under the niyama also. Whereas Ishwar Pranidhana mentioned in Sutra number 1 and Sutra number 45 of second book is for Antaranga Sadhana of Kriya Yoga, that is related to internal aspect of meditation. Means in meditation there is nothing external that, oh God, I am doing something, I am offering to you. When you are in meditation, you are not doing anything, you are just a witness, you are sakshi, but in meditation you are surrendering yourself from within. So that is internal aspect. So I think it is clear that why Ishwar Pranidhana is mentioned as a Kriya Yoga first and then it is mentioned under the Niyamas. Because when it comes under Niyama, then it is the external form of surrender. When it is in the first sutra and 45th sutra, it is internal aspect. Again, whatever we do, we offer it to God. This is external surrender. And in meditation, we surrender ourselves completely. There is no action involved. So this is internal aspect. So first we practice Ishwar Pranidhana as the niyama, external surrender. And then it becomes internal surrender, internal aspect of Ishwar Pranidhana. It should also be clear that sage is using three words in relation to practice in this sutra: yama, niyama and sanyama. And these are mentioned in like second book, sutra number 29 and 30, and then second book 29 and 32 sutra number, and sutra number 4 in third book, sanyama. So yama, niyama, sanyama, these three words appear to be same, but they have very different connotations. So there are three types. Now I'll take you a little further about the Kriya Yoga practice. Tapa, Swadhyaya, Ishwar, Pranidhana, Kriya Yoga we understood. But again, Sage Patanjali is mentioning about, first he mentioned about Abhyasa and Vairagya. That if you want to attain Samadhi, then you have to practice, you have to follow these two limbs. You control your mind, seize the thought patterns, and you can attain Samadhi. So first he's telling Abhyasa and Vairagya. You should practice detachment and continue your practice of yoga or whatever you have learned from the master. Then he is telling Tapa, Swadhyaya, Pranidhanani, austerity, self-analysis, self-study, and surrender to God. That is Kriya Yoga. And then he is telling that eightfold limbs of yoga one has to practice. That is also Kriya Yoga. First four are external, last four are internal practice of Kriya Yoga. So why he is mentioning these three types of practices? Why says Patanjali doesn't say only Tapa, Swadhyaya, Pranidhana, Kriya Yoga, that's all. But why he is mentioning three different forms of practices? Now the question. He is mentioned because the question is why he is mentioned. The answer is because there are three types of seekers, three types of spiritual seekers, or you can say three types of student in yoga. And according to them, these three forms of Kriya practices are recommended. Three types of students, we call them Mrudu, Madhya, Adhimatra. Mrudu means gentle, mild student, gentle student who have just begun their journey. You can say they are the beginners. And Madhyama means who are in the middle, who already have practiced something, they have more interest. And third is Adhimatra. Adhimatra means very sincere students who are advanced students. So those who have some knowledge and those who are advanced. So beginners, those who have some knowledge, and third is who are advanced. These three types of seekers, three levels of students. And according to these three levels, three forms of Kriya practice are recommended by Sage Patanjali. So before going to that, let me explain a little bit about this eightfold system also. If you see in the slide, three types of Kriya practice. If we see what is the purpose when Sage Patanjali starts the discussion in the first book, he is telling Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. This is what is yoga. This is what is yoga. And here yoga we already discussed in our first lecture that yoga is not related to any form of union, but here in this entire book of Yoga Sutra, yoga is samadhi, yoga samadho. So how to attain samadhi? By chitta vritti nirodha. So here is the essence of Yoga Sutra, that yoga chitta vritti nirodha, by cessation of our thought patterns one can attain yoga, means samadhi. So we are talking about nirodha upaya. Upaya means means. Upaya is means. So what is the mean? What is the way to cease, to stop these thought patterns? So that is the purpose, nirodha upaya. Now how to attain that chitta vritti nirodha? So there are three. Uttama adhikari, in Sanskrit it is called yoga rudha, who has already ascended to some extent and he is established in yoga, means he has been practicing and very sincerely following it. That is called yoga rudha. So he is called Uttam Adhikari, means the best advanced student. So for advanced student, Abhyasa and Vairagya is enough. What he has learned, just to practice it continuously and be detached from the fruits of action. So these two will lead an advanced student to Samadhi. So this is first practice for Uttam Adhikari. Now what about the Madhyam Adhikari? Madhyam means Yunjana. Yunjana, one who is in the middle, who has practiced a little bit, who has some understanding and knowledge about the yoga, but he is not as sincere as the first one. So one who is in the middle, for him, the Kriya Yoga practice is threefold: Tapa, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhana. So he has to practice Tapa. Tapa means austerity, penance, and self-analysis, and or discipline of body and mind, then self-analysis or self-enquiry, some study of scriptures, and complete surrender to God. So he has to follow these three. Because Uttam Adhikari Yoga Road has already crossed these three states, so for him only Abhyasa and Vairagya is enough. Then comes the Manda Adhikari, who is known as Arurukshu. Arurukshu means Manda Adhikari, who is mild or beginner, mild student or beginner. And for the beginner, Sage Patanjali has mentioned these 8 limbs one has to practice. So one who is beginner in the Kriya Yoga has to practice all these 8 limbs. So that is the reason Sage Patanjali has mentioned threefold practice, 3 types of practices for 3 types of student. So don't think that Kriya Yoga means anybody comes to Kriya Yoga can just practice whatever is taught, but it encompasses all these practices. However, this is the perspective of Sage Patanjali and Vyasa Bhashya. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi are to be practiced by the beginner or mild student. However, if we go further, just to talk about the practice, modifications of mind, which is known as Chitta Vritti, can be restricted by 3 types of Kriya practice recommended for 3 kinds of seekers. I think it is clear. Now, just to give you some idea about the Yama and Niyama. What are Yama and what are the Niyamas? So for the beginners, all the 8 limbs are required to be practiced. And what are these limbs? So first, Yama. Tatra ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, yamaha. It is in 2nd chapter, sutra number 30. So 5 yamas are there. And what are these? So 5 yama. Tatra ahimsa. First is ahimsa, second is satya, third is asteya, fourth is brahmacharya, fifth is aparigraha. Ahimsa means non-violence. Satya means truthfulness. Asteya means non-stealing. Brahmacharya is continence. And the inner meaning is to remain in Brahman, means remain in God consciousness through disciplining the senses. And the 5th one is aparigraha. A means non, so non-possessiveness. These 5 are known as yama. They are known as self-discipline. Yama, again to explain, when we live in society with others, so these yamas are the principles or vows to be practiced in relation with others. That I will not kill, when I speak to others, I will not speak untruth, I will not steal, and so on. So these are the 5. I'm not going into detail of these because that's not our subject matter, but these are the 5. Non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, and non-possessiveness. These are the yamas. If you talk about the yama, So here you see the 5 yamas and the fruit of perfection. When we practice these 5 yamas, what is the result? What do we get by practicing these 5 vows known as yama? So it is in further sutras. I'll just give the essence of that or translation of those sutras. 5 yamas are self-discipline, ahimsa or non-violence. When we practice non-violence, there is no hostility in his presence. Means a person who is practicing non-violence, in his presence, nobody can have any violent thoughts. Even a ferocious animal coming in contact or in vicinity of this person will forget his uh, violent nature. Satya, when we practice truthfulness, whatever a person utters will come true. This is what is the result. It is known as Vaksiddhi. Then Asteya, non-stealing. When a person is established in this virtue or value of non-stealing, all the riches will flow towards him. He doesn't need to think about anything, but everything is available or it comes to that person by grace of God. Brahmacharya, if a person is practicing Brahmacharya or continence, then what is the result? After being established in Brahmacharya, great valor is gained and fear of death is lost. One can conquer the fear of death. And fifth one is aparigraha, non-possessiveness. So if a person is established in non-possessiveness, means doesn't desire anything from anybody or accept any gift from anyone, the knowledge of previous births and future births will dawn upon that person. So these are the results mentioned by Sage Patanjali. Now if we talk about this is about the 5 yamas, and what are the 5 niyamas? Just to give a little bit idea: Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhanani Niyamaha. It is in Sutra number 32, second book. Shaucha means purity, Santosh means contentment, Tapaha is austerity, Swadhyaya self-study, and Ishwar Pranidhan self-surrender to God. These 5 constitute the vows of observance, niyama. And niyama are related to your own self. That you have to purify your body and mind, you have to remain content, you have to practice some swadhyaya means self-analysis or study of scriptures, surrender to it. These are all niyamas. And what happens when we practice these 5 niyamas? So I'll give you again some idea which is mentioned in the further sutras of second book. 5 niyamas are vows of observance. Shaucha, purity. If a person is established in purity, both mental and physical, then what happens? One gets indifference towards the body, non-attachment, fitness for cheerfulness, and sense control. This is the result. Santosha, if a person is content and established in contentment, then there is unexcelled happiness. When one is established in tapaha or austerity, so impurities are destroyed, body and sense organs attain perfection. And one who is established in swadhyaya, then one can experience union with the desired form of God. Because God is both form and formless. So whichever form you worship, you can attain union with God or the deity. Then Ishwar Pranidhana, if you are established in that surrender to God, then Samadhi is attained. So these are the results of practicing 5 niyamas. So 5 yamas, 5 niyamas, and maybe we can discuss little bit about these in little detail so that you can get better idea of what to practice. However, out of the 8 limbs of yoga, the first one is yama. Yama is derived from the root word yam. Yam means to curb, to offer, to give, to go, to exhibit, to show, to support. So many meanings of this root verb in Sanskrit, yam. Yama means a process of forward movement with discipline. Or you can say to offer oneself to divine is Yama. Yama is also Lord of Death and the presiding deity of southern direction. In yoga, the ordinary meaning is described as self-control or some practice of high morals. So we'll take it here. Yama means self-control. The sage Patanjali has defined Yama as the practice of some high morals and ideals, such as ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. Ahimsa is non-violence, satya truthfulness, asteya non-stealing, brahmacharya continence, aparigraha non-possessiveness. Maybe we can discuss a little bit more and then we'll come to further Ishwar Pranidhana, the most important part in our next class. So we'll stop our discussion here. We'll have a little meditation today. Please close your eyes. Keep your spine straight. Concentrate in between the eyebrows. Gently withdraw your attention from the external world. Please observe your breath. In the beginning, just watch breath coming in from the nostrils, moving up to the lungs, and again going out. This is the external breath. Now take your attention to the subtle breath, movement of breath between two poles of the spine, top of the head, base of the spine. Inside the canal, watch up and down movement of breath. You may feel the subtle flow of prana your mind becomes more calm, peaceful. To regulate our breath, we will practice deep breathing technique, pranayama. Slow, long, deep inhalations and exhalations as per your capacity, you will practice. While inhaling, feel that all the positive tendencies are entering you. While exhaling, feel that all negative tendencies are going away from you. From bottom of the spine to top of the head and so on. Please inhale love, exhale peace, inhale love, exhale peace, inhale love, exhale peace, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale peace, exhale love, inhale love, exhale peace, inhale love, exhale, peace, inhale, love, exhale, peace, normal conscious breath, more love, more peace within. Breath becomes slow and feeble, body is completely still, mind is tranquil. Remaining in between the eyebrows, meditate in silence for few minutes. divine blissful state, extreme calmness, always maintain this state of bliss, peace, and joy in all your activities. We'll finish with the prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all become happy and healthy, loving, noble, and generous. May there be no suffering or sorrow. May there be more love, peace, and harmony among us and in the entire creation. Om. Amen. Open the eyes. Thank you all. I see one question. I'm keeping this question for next class because I have a couple of more questions. I'll address all together in the next class, which will be the concluding class. And if you have any question about this series of lectures, you may send your question to Institute and I'll include that in our last class next Thursday. Thank you all for joining and spending your valuable time. Meditate nicely. Till next time, Jai Guru.